speaker of the day is our president, our esteemed president, Herrick Spencer. And his project is, he's going to be telling us a story from the researching and presenting project. And the title of his speech is Life Cycles of the Honeybee and the Varroa Destructor Mite. Take it away, Herrick.
Yeah, I think you're on mute. I can't hear. I don't know if anyone else can.
Yeah, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Can you guys see the presentation that I'm displaying?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, thank you, Mara. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. I did this as a self-serving research project because I'm a third generation beekeeper. My grandfather, father, and many relatives were beekeepers. But there's a problem that has existed that didn't exist for my father, but exists now for most beekeepers in the United States and in pretty much the rest of the world. Started out in, I believe, 1985. The Varroa Destructor mite has attacked our beehives and is causing lots of damage. So I wanted to talk today about ways that you can mitigate this threat. And this may not be of particular interest to you, but the thing that I think would take me all of this meeting to excitedly discuss with you is the life of a bee and the intersection of the bee and life cycle with a Varroa Destructor mite. My feeling about bees are that they are fascinating. They're like alien creatures to me. I want to get to a point where I can see. I can't see Sarabi. I'm trying to get back to. There we go. Cool. Okay, just making sure you guys can still see my presentation, right? Yes. Okay. So I want to discuss the bee, and at some point I'm going to answer the rest of these discussion points. What makes a bee? What makes a worker? What makes a drone? I jokingly put, who's your daddy? There's a question there that is kind of funny. And so what job do you do explains what a bee does in the hive and who the real boss is of a hive. Most people would assume that it's the queen, but that's not entirely true. So this slide shows the general life cycle, if you'd call it that. It's really birth cycle of a bee, from when the queen drops an egg into a cell through its larvae pupae stage to emerging as an adult. And it's a rather, long amount of time. It's nearly a month to grow a bee that it's been in that cell. The way that a queen creates bees is rather interesting. She actually gets to choose the sex of the bee she's going to drop into the cell, which is something that's not pretty, I would think you'd assume is not pretty common in an animal world. She gets to decide if it's going to be a drone bee, the male, or the worker bee, what's considered the female. Worker bee is actually an asexual insect. It does not have sexual organs. It can't create babies, but it's considered female because it has some of the vestigial organs of a female bee that the queen does. The way that the queen does this is she actually has a sac inside her abdomen that has spermatozoa in it from mating, and can, on deciding to drop an egg from her ovum, be able to inseminate that egg as she drops it into the cell. Completely fascinating. So she decides, hey, we need more drones. Hey, we need more workers. Obviously, mostly workers. An inseminated egg becomes a worker bee, and a non-inseminated cell becomes a drone. So the who's your daddy question is literally, who's the drone's daddy? Doesn't really have a dad. It's only the queen. It has a grandfather, but no father, because it was an uninseminated egg that created the drone. Completely alien thing to me when I learned this. Amazing thing. And then the jobs that bees do, they are born about, as I said, 21 days in the cell. They're born, they become nurse bees. They help feed the larvae and cap pupa cells and raise the new bees. And after about 2 weeks, they become house bees. They go around cleaning up the hive of any waste and anything else. And at 3 weeks, they become guards. They sit out at the front and make sure that only members of their hive come back in and keep everybody else out. And because of that, they're doing little test flights so they can figure out how to get back to their own hive. So they become foragers, and they do that for about 4 to 5 weeks and then die. They're actually literally work themselves to death. And that's the worker bees. The drones have the life of, it's awesome. They just sit around, do nothing. The girls come up to them every once in a while and feed them honey. They go out and mate with queens. Unfortunately, they do die in mating, but I mean, it's mating, so that's still pretty good, I have to say. But they get to do that for a certain amount of time, and they die in winter. Now, I could talk about that forever, but as the light just turned green, I'm going to switch on to the next slide, which is the Varroa Destructor. The Varroa Destructor is a mite that was introduced in 1987 to the United States and has sucked on the back of larvae in their cells and the bees in their adult life, and nearly has decimated and killed Apis mellifera in 1 decade. Beekeepers are now doing lots of work to fix this. The life cycle of how this happens is an adult with a mite actually goes near a cell, and it drops into the cell with the larvae, and that adult mite makes new babies, about 6 of them, and they grow in there feeding on the baby, come out and make new ones. So it's a quadratic growth of brood for the mite. It's rather horrible. But if we know the level of the mites in your hive, we can actually take steps to bring them down with different chemicals. There was a paper done by Megan Milbrath at MSU, who showed that the brood life of bees and the brood life of mites intersect at 2 different parts of the year. And at those parts is exactly when we can create treatments and bring down the mite level in a hive and possibly keep them at bay. And this is the thing that beekeepers have been doing to keep their mites. So we do a treatment at June, midsummer. We actually do a treatment in the beginning of the spring, so in March, and then another one in the middle of summer, and another one right before the bees go into their winter state. And really quickly, since I only have 30 seconds left, there's lots of different chemicals to accomplish this goal, but the main ones are oxalic acid and formic acid. Formic acid is what ants spray out you. But it's really interesting. The intersection between the 2 brood lives is the answer to killing these mites and keeping them at bay. And I'm going to do another speech later in the year talking way at length about bees because I'm super excited about it. But I want to thank you for the time to talk to you about it today. So thank you very much, and back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for this much awaited speech. You have teased us about this for a while, and I am so happy to see that you're finally getting to it.
Yeah,
it is a fascinating topic.
I'm definitely going to take pieces of this exact speech and break it up into multiple 5 minutes speeches for you guys, because I think you'll be fascinated, especially on that first slide. There's so much information. It'll be interesting.
Yes. Okay. Proceeding with our meeting,